Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk a little bit about romanticisation of the past and how a lot of people, particularly from my generation, the sort of Generation Z, they like to sort of go on about like how times were so much better in the past. You know that whole joke of like, oh, what is it like? Oh, kids these days don't listen to Dark Sides of the Moon. I'm 13 years old and I listen to Dark Sides of the Moon. Everyone now just wants to listen to Kesha and Katy Perry and the you know, Lou Wrong Generation, I think is what it's called. Like the phenomenon of just people going on about like a time that they weren't even a part of, as if it was a way better time than it is now, whilst, you know, neglecting to mention the troubles that came from the past. And, you know, even if, let's say that the 70s or whatever was a perfect time where there was no problems going on at all, right? What good does it do you to just sit there and worry about like how times now are just so shit and how back then everything was so brilliant? Because you're never going back to the 70s, right? Hate to break it to you, but the 70s aren't coming back, right? It's just not going to happen. You're never going to get those times back. When I was sort of 13, 14, I was even one of those Lou Wrong Generation sort of people. Like, I mean, I didn't even really listen to music from that period. I didn't really like music from that period at the time. But I just sort of looked at, like, you know, pictures of Britain in like the 70s and the 60s, and I just thought, oh God, all the buildings look so much nicer. Everyone just looks so more like appealing in like their suits and stuff. And, you know, now there's just, you know, just people going around and like they don't even care about what they wear. And it's like, you know, look at me, I'm one to talk, aren't I? So, you know, everything back then wasn't, you know, all sunshine and rainbows, and everything now isn't just like pure misery. There's a give and a take to it. You know, sometimes stuff is all right, sometimes stuff isn't that as good as it was, sometimes stuff is better than it was. So, you know, now, sure, iPhones and like social media and stuff, they can cause a lot of problems, right? Like, I don't particularly like, you know, Twitter and Facebook and you know, all this sort of stuff. Like, but, you know, I do go on them and I almost feel like maybe I'm addicted to them, the same way that probably everyone else is. But maybe we don't want to admit to ourselves that we have an addiction to social media. We just sort of, you know, decry how everyone now is so reliant on their phones. And it's like, you know, you go on a train and you see everyone sort of sat there like this, just do like that, right? And you kind of look and you're like, oh God, where's all the people reading newspapers or reading books and stuff? And you might see one or two that are reading a newspaper or reading a book. And, you know, you'll be looking at your phone as well, whilst you're looking at everyone else going, oh, everyone nowadays is just on their phone. So are you, right? And you might be aware that it's all an addiction sort of thing, that we're all there just kind of addicted to this fucking like screen that comes and gives us dopamine, because that's what it does. It's got big bright colors on it. Like if I show you the home page, right? Look at all the bright colors. You got WhatsApp there, big green. You got YouTube, big red. You got like Google Chrome. It's got green, red, and yellow. You got Discord, big blue. You know. Then you go on here, and it's just like, oh, man looks happy on the news. Whoa! And then you got like, oh, what are the London hospitals with the shortest A&E waiting times? Oh, I wonder that. You know, and you know, just so much stuff, so much clutter that just impacts your mind and just makes you think about stuff that, you know, it's escapism at the end of the day. You want to try and not think about the general world that's around you, so you think about the stuff that's on your phone. And, you know, because you might, if you are one of these people that sort of looks at, you know, the world, the modern world, and goes, oh, everything was so much better way back then, this is a nice little escape from that. You know, from this modern world that we all live in, even though it's part of the modern world in and of itself. And I don't blame you for that, because I have done the same sort of thing. And in fact, the film that I'm making, Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, right, is all about this idea of over-romanticization of the past. It's all about Johnny Mozza is a character who is obsessed with, like, you know, the music from that period, and how, you know, back then it just looked like, you know, everything was so much better, and he can't quite describe it. You know, but it's this feeling, it's this idea that everything was better back then, before we had phones and stuff cluttering our brains, and before 24-hour news got us all worried about everything all the time. You know, people just got on with life, and people would have nice little, oh, hello Doris, how are you doing today? Oh, not too bad, I've just gone, apparently everyone from the 70s is just from up north. But that is my little imagination of what the 70s was like, right? And I like that little imagination of what the 70s was like. And if I could live in that little fantasy, I would. But it doesn't exist, right? But what does exist is the modern day. And if you try and shut yourself away from what's going on in the modern world, you're never going to be content with yourself, because you won't be able to find a place for yourself in this modern world, right? Because there's stuff somewhere for everyone. There's someone else there that thinks the same as you. And if you just find them, then you can get along and like maybe make friends with them or whatever. There'll be little communities that work for you. Maybe there'll be online communities. Maybe there'll be in-person communities. Just try and find something that can give you a little bit of a respite, is I think might be the word, from the miseries of the modern world. If you're so upset with the modern world, because like I understand it, I mean, new builds, for instance, they look a wreck. Architecture and stuff now might feel like it doesn't look as good as it once was. And yeah, sure, maybe we understand the idea that maybe architecture from the past wasn't all that, but a lot of it, we only see the stuff that's managed to last the test of time, which is all the best stuff, right? Which will be the same in 300 years when we look at the stuff that's, survived the test of time that was built today. The bog standard flat number 709 is not going to be the thing that lasts for another 300 years. That's going to be gone. Don't worry about that. That's going the way of the Victorian slum. So that's fine. But, we still have to look at it. I don't like looking at these new builds. I think they're fucking atrocious, right? But they keep building them. They keep building more and more and more of them, right? And, they replace like pubs, and they shut down all the pubs, and they replace them with like blocks of flats or, clothes shops or vape shops or whatever. And it's just like, that wasn't as good. How's that helping the community? Now everyone just sort of stays at home and just drinks cans instead of going to the pub and drinking there, and maybe that feels like the community's sort of dying, but it's not. Maybe it's changing because the internet has impacted our lives in a tremendous, very revolutionary way. It's very hard to say very revolutionary, very revolutionary, right? It just is very revolutionary what's going on with the internet and stuff, in terms of how it's impacted our lives, and we're adjusting to that, and we're in an adjustment phase. And once we figure that out, I don't think people stop meeting up in person. Like, the younger people that I know, right, like in my family and stuff, they still go and meet each other, like their friends and that. They still go out, they go to the skate park and stuff. There's a skate park just down there, right? I filmed there yesterday, right, during the school hours, and it was dead. I'm here now and it's Saturday, right, and they're all out, they're all skating and stuff. So, people are still going around, they're still having a nice time, people are still socializing and interacting with one another, and everything is still working pretty much, right? At least in the same way that it was in the 70s. I'm not saying all like systemic problems are going to be just solved like that. But maybe it's a good thing that we're aware of all that sort of stuff now in a way that we weren't back then. And there's this whole idea that, you can't say anything now without like, compared to back then, you could say whatever you wanted. And it's like, I feel like you can say more now, surely, because like, we have more access to information. I think the only thing I dislike about the internet is, the main thing I dislike about the internet is, say if you're having a conversation with someone and you're trying to remember what something is, right? You can just now go on Google and someone will just go, I'm Googling it. Oh, it turns out it's this. That could have been like a 2-hour conversation there where we tried to figure out what was going on. And, we might have come out with the wrong answer, and then we spread the wrong answer to a load of people, right? And then that weird alternate version of reality gets spread, and we all get to live on our own little bubbles rather than this one giant bubble that is the internet. And that's kind of nice. Maybe that's me just claiming that I want misinformation to spread across the world, and if that's the case, so be it. But it's just fun because it comes from a place of like communicating with one another and developing friendships through, querying the world and not getting the answer straight away, compared to if I just go on Google and just go, oh, what's the thing that we're trying to figure out? Oh, here it is. Oh, great. Now what do we talk about, So, yeah, the past, it might have been better than today in some ways. But you know what? I'm only 25, right? I was born in 1999. I'm never going to know for like first-hand experience what it was like in the 70s, right? Some people will say it's better than now. Some people will say it's worse than now, right? And all I can do is just take all of their bits of experience on board, try and develop my own worldview and where we are, right? And where we're going to go in the future, and try and make the best future for ourselves, right? Based on what worked about the present and what worked about the past. So that's all we can really do. All we can do is just try and be the most content with the world that we have, because we're not going to get any other world. We can't just take this world back to the fucking shop and get a refund on it or get a swap for another world. So just make with it what you have. Just, make something out of it, because if you just sit there and just like sit around going, oh, it's so shit nowadays, everything's so crap. It's like, well, you're not going to be happy anyway, and you're going to shut out this modern world, and even if it's not as good as the 70s, you know, you're just making it worse for yourself. So why do that when you can just be sort of a bit more content with it? And, you know, even if there are problems now, there were problems back then as well. Maybe they're different problems. Some will be the same. Some things will change. Some things will stay the same. And that's fine. That's all right. And we don't need to worry so much about where we are, where we're going, because as long as you're finding a community that works for you and that, you know, you find comfort in and that you enjoy being around, if you find some, you know, oasis in this sea of grey and brown, then you might just, you know, be able to be content with the fact that maybe the 70s was better. And we're never going to go back to that time, but we can always see what the present has to bring for us, because, you know, the second best film ever made is still a good film. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. Let me know your experiences. Were you born ages ago and you grew up in the 70s and the 80s or whatever, and you think like, oh, it was so much better back then? Why do you think it was better back then? Maybe you're the opposite. You grew up in the 70s and the 80s and you think now is way better because X, Y, and Z reasons. Maybe you're from like my generation, Generation Z. You were born in like the late 90s or early 2000s and you think, oh God, everything's so crap now. Or maybe you think that we're living in the best time ever because phones and stuff are brilliant and you can communicate with like your friends and family even if they move to another country without having to pay out the arse for like, you know, international calls and stuff. Because that's a good thing. WhatsApp's good. I mean, like, I talked to this guy from Japan, right? Tantris Humble, he does videos sort of like this as well. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to talk to him if it was 1979, right? It would cost us an arm and a leg. In fact, we wouldn't have even met because he'd just be in Japan doing his Japan business and I'd be in Britain doing my Britain business. And we'd never be able to interact with one another because there's no such thing as Discord. There's no such thing as like, you know, Instagram DMs. Nothing like that existed back then. You'd have to send letters back and forth and it would be like, oh, dear Tantris Humble, how you doing today? What's going on new with you in Japan? You're not even doing videos because it's 1979. You can't afford to make them and get the film reels and all that stuff. And then even then you can't share them. So tell me what you're doing in 1979 in Japan. How's it going? All the best, Josh from Britain. Right? And then, you know, 3 weeks later, the letter gets to Tantris Humble, right? And he opens it and he goes, oh, it's a nice little letter. I'll write him one back. And he goes, dear Josh, thank you for your letter. How's life treating you back in Britain, all right? Yeah, things are going well. I'm not making any videos because I can't afford the film, as you just said. But no worries, there's loads of stuff to do in 1979, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll go to the Japanese pub or whatever. And yeah, I might be in Britain in the next like couple years, so I'll send you a letter at some point. Yeah, cheers, bye. He wouldn't say cheers because he's American, but you get the point. That takes ages. And then that's 6 weeks to get my response back from the thing that he sent. Probably more if he takes like a week or so to write the letter out. Maybe he forgets to send it for like a few days because he's busy and stuff. And then, oh shit, yeah, I've got this letter. I need to send that to take it to the post office or whatever they have in Japan. Oh yeah, I need to take it over there. And then he sends it and then it gets all delivered all the way back. Whereas now, I can just go, hey, man. And then maybe he's online now. Oh, hey man, how's it going? Yeah, not too bad. Just out filming a video. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm just about to go out. I'll talk to you in a few hours. Okay, cool. Beep, send. Right? We just had the whole conversation right there in the time it took me to send that. And that's cool. That's fun. That's a nice thing about the modern world, isn't it? And yeah, maybe there's some stuff about the 70s where we don't have now, that we do have now. And vice versa. Maybe there's stuff that we had in the 70s that we don't have now. And I'd like you to tell me what that stuff is because I like to educate myself and that kind of thing. Because as you can probably tell from this video, I don't have all the fucking answers. I don't have any of the answers. I just have questions. So yeah, please leave your answers to these questions in the description, in the comments thing, because we can get a nice little discussion going around this and it can be a load of fun. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, everybody. Hope you have a good one and take care. Bye-bye. Oh, Tantris Humble has responded to me. Yeah, okay. Oh, it turns out that he's actually living in 2025 and he's just doing some videos. Cool. Well, yeah, it's a shy joke, really. Oh well.